What's good? What's good? What's good? We back in the building, man. It's your boy B Neil, aka Emerald Thoughts, aka Emerald Gamer. Back in this thing, man. Y'all see the title? Reacting to DJ Academics versus DJ Vlad. The latest interview with Kanye West and things like that. And I think a lot of interesting conversations came up just between the black and Jewish conversation and how a lot of these conversations are kind of intertwined with how not only how Kanye's been treated by certain Jews, but how black artists or even there's black history on how Jewish landlords and just bankers and all type of things have done things to spite black people and hurt black people over the years, and how Kanye bringing this conversation up only makes me reflect back to other people's problems, not just Kanye's. But with that being said, I think DJ Academics does a good job arguing for someone that's not even himself, as far as these are not his points, but he's trying to be as unbiased as he can when he's having this conversation from a Kanye perspective, in a sense. So let's get it.
I'll sit there with it, and I would start to push back. I'd be like, you know that chain that you're wearing, the swastika chain. I lost about 9 family members by that group that you're representing right now. Like my grandfather's, all his 9 siblings were killed by Nazis. I have a smaller family right now because of what you're representing. You know, you think those people like black people? When you see a Nazi out, a dude with a Nazi tattoo, you think he loves black people? You think he only hates Jews and loves black people? Like, you know what?
And I can understand how a Jewish guy draws into that energy and draws into that understanding or draws into that perspective when he sees a swastika. And with Kanye, in this troll world that we live in, and a lot of trolls exist, he's clearly trolling. He's clearly trolling. And is the troll dangerous to certain, beliefs and races? Yeah, of course. But I think the intent behind Kanye wearing that chain is more to do around the fact of it's up versus the Jewish people that I'm going against. It's up versus the Jews in the sense of the elites. It's up versus the people that's constantly been causing strife throughout my times with the Adidas situation, or however Kanye may be looking at it. So we seen I think the list that he might have brought out and showed on how many Jews or whatever are in Hollywood or in the places of power. And I think that's what Kanye is attacking. Kanye is trying to bring light to the powers that Jews have. I don't think that, honestly, I think the swastika it doesn't really have much to do with Hitler. Obviously, he brings Hitler into it. He says he loves Hitler and shit like that. But I think that's a part of the troll. I think it's really just to spite the Jewish men that has spited him over the years. I think that's his purpose for wearing a chain. But like I said, I can understand Vlad looking at it as a representation of he's supporting everything as far as Hitler beliefs. I really just think he know that this shit enrages Jewish people, and he hate a lot of Jewish elites, and he's gonna do whatever he can to piss them the fuck off. Like I think that's more about what it is, if anything.
Do you know what Hitler did? He sterilized every mixed person in Germany, was sterilized so they don't reproduce, because they're not trying to taint the superior race that Hitler was trying to create. They weren't necessarily always killing black people, but if you were German and black, you wouldn't be allowed to have babies.
So
your kids, Kanye, your kids, if they were living in Germany at the time, would be robbed of their ability to reproduce. Male and female. Northwest will never have children because of what that symbol symbolizes. You know what I'm saying?
And the only thing, and I already kind of know where this argument is going, it's going to be very similar to the music industry and the people that Vlad interviews. There's family trees that get killed from the interviews that you engage in and help grow these beef bigger. Obviously, you're not the only one that do that, so I'm not just holding you to the fire, but there's a lot of Jewish industry or execs that push gang shit. They look for degenerate behavior. They look for exploitative energy or exploitative people that they could use as puppets to push on the next generation to find more exploitative people that they can use. So, and how that has destroyed our generations or helped destroy generations over the years. I think rap is multi-layered, and I think that's more of a product of that's done in the education system. That's done in every. And I'm kind of arguing two different things real quick because I just thought about the old Dr. Umar part, that conversation that came up about how rap is degenerative and how rap doesn't do anything, it hasn't built. But I don't think this conversation is indicative of rap and how people can exploit it, because I think anytime black people build something, there's people trying to come exploit it. Anytime black people need something, there's people trying to come and exploit us, whether it's the medical industry, whether it's the pharmaceutical industry, whether it's jobs underpaying us, no matter where, churches, no matter where you go, where black people are in need or building something, there's people trying to exploit it. So that's why when I start thinking, I'm like, I can already hear the Dr. Umar rebuttals of, well, with rap so bad and look how it's led by, I'm like, well, it's a whole nother conversation I don't want to get into. But to stay on topic, a lot of the people that do exploit and come take advantage of us when we're at need or when we're looking for opportunity end up happening to be the kinds of the DJ Vlad when it comes to some of these elite people, or even when it comes to certain people in media that's trying to use us for exploitation. Obviously, it's not only Vlad and Jewish people doing it, it's black people that do that too, so I'll be honest, but don't act like Jewish people have not benefited from black destruction. And the fact that Kanye is acknowledging it and is flipping it back on y'all don't like it.
Answer that.
What he's trying to say in response to that, he said, well, listen, and I don't know if this is the sole reason. I think it's much more multifaceted, because it's not. So he said, they make money off our pain, but they hate when we try to exploit their pain. And he uses this us versus them type of ideology. But what do you say to that? Where he's like, hey, listen, when it comes to, I guess he's speaking about black people. He's like,
so every Jewish person makes money off of black pain? Really? Every Jewish person?
That's not, I don't think that's Kanye's point. I never think Kanye's attacking all Jews. That's why I said when he wears the swastika, he might think a way about Jewish people and their beliefs and shit. I don't know about that. I haven't really dove into all of that. But his overall problem, if you're just being honest, is with the Jewish elites from the labels and different banks and shit, where they literally cut off his money, bro. Like, he couldn't use anything. Like, they literally cut off like 7 different accesses of like ways he could access wealth or power or money. They cut it off for a good amount of time. Not because he did something illegal, because of his views, if I'm not mistaken. So when Kanye is being bitter and being spiteful towards Jewish culture, he's more talking about the elitism that exists. I'm sure there's a poor Jewish guy that has no control over anything, and he's just at the bottom of the totem pole in the Jews. He's the bottom of the totem pole in society. Like, all Jewish people aren't fucking elite. Like, that in itself is stereotypical to think every Jewish person is smart, every Jewish person is a banker. And no, I don't think that highly of them in a sense. But at the same time, I do think when it comes to their best of their best and their elite of the elite, they're in places of power that that is hard to argue, bro.
I don't know.
Is he saying?
And that places of power have benefited off our pain for years. For years, there's no conversation about it. And that's from, like I said, trying to find people that's also will help push exploitative shit and finding certain artists that are keen to be degenerate. They've promoted and put that in a cycle. They also are part of benefiting off our pain. Cheated us out of so much money as far as the artists. And some of these lawyer deals and these backdoor deals, the lawyers know how to get these artists to sign in, because they really rather work with the label that's going to be here for 100 years versus an artist that may be gone tomorrow. How these lawyers are will even if they were on your side and trying to get the most money out of these labels, they're taking shit off the top. If they're your accountant, they taking shit when you're not noticing. And that's the conversation that I've heard over the years with not only Jewish people. There's white executives, there's black executives that do that as well. But for Kanye specifically, he had to come across a lot of Jewish people that fucked him over. And that's his problem. That's his problem. And I'm sure he called out non-Jewish people as well. So I don't even think you can kill him for that. But so just to get back to my point, just how they fucked us up so many contracts and fucked us up over so many roles and the roles that they try to put us in and things like that, bro. They've benefited off our pain tremendously.
The Jews, me.
Versus one guy, he doesn't even benefit off y'all pain. He's not getting an immense amount of sales. He's not growing to a number that he's never been before. Kanye is Kanye, and people look at him as like the old guy that rants from time to time, that might drop a hit every once in a while. But for the most part, he's not really even benefiting off of this. He's really just going to war, and he don't care what's at stake. And that's one guy versus a culture of Jewish people, at least Jewish elites, not all Jews, certain execs and certain Jewish elites that so happen to dominate certain regions that black people thrive in, versus one guy in Kanye. And he's calling you guys out at the same time. So I don't look at this as beneficial. I look at this as mortarism or some shit like that, or some type of dying on the ledge type of ideals, but not a guy strictly doing this to benefit. Like, I think this guy has a legitimate gripe with you, a certain culture that Jewish people has facilitated, and I think he's made some solid points over the years about y'all and that culture specifically.
All the Jews. He even said in interviews, like, oh, do you remember he was on that one dude, that Proud Boys podcast, and he was like, remember this was, I don't know, maybe like a year and a half ago or something. He did an interview with one of the dudes from the Proud Boys. And the guy's like, hey, so when you say the Jews, are you talking about specific Jews or all Jews? Kanye said all Jews.
I said, as me, maybe I'm just wearing a cape, but I look at that as a form of troll. When he says something like that, he's clearly trying to enrage y'all. But when you look at his real problems and where he's been really aiming his energy towards, it's not all Jews. He's aiming his energy towards the elites. Like, if you ask me, and that's how it's been over the years of his gripes with the Jewish people or the Jewish culture that, like I said, facilitates this type of fuckery.
All Jews. So you're telling me that all Jews make money off of black pain? My mother, my father, all my cousins.
I mean, I won't make this as like it's a matter of fact, but it's a possibility. They say the Jewish people recycle money well. So if your elites, it's been thriving off black people paying for generations, a lot of generations, like since the 50s when we talk about landlords, bankers, and then you start talking about some of the music execs over the years. There was Jewish music execs getting over that wasn't dealing with rap. That they was dealing with blues. They was dealing like go back and look. It's a lot of that to be seen. So with that being said, if they're recycling money into that culture, it's a good chance that most of not most, because I'm talking about American Jews, I guess, have benefited off of our pain. Because we're talking about millionaires, billionaires, and shit like that money gets passed down through so many different channels and so many different organizations that they donate to for tax cuts and all this other shit. So who fucking knows how deep that well really runs on how much they've been using us, to be honest. But for sure the elites of the Americans and shit like that.
Everyone in Israel, all the Jews living in New York and LA and everything else like that, all the Jews in South Africa and fucking Brazil and all, like, we're all making money off. This is what we do. This is our profession. Like, this is what we're trained. Like, we go to colleges to make money off black people's pain. Like, really? Or are certain people in the record business, in certain positions, and they happen to have certain artists that are gangster rappers, and they monetize off, and these artists create this music, and they are the record.
See, it's a big culture for them doing exactly what he said, but then there's also them monetizing off people that are just good artists. Just it could be singers, it could be all type of different artists. So it's not just the gang exploitative shit is one thing that the Jewish people do, as far as the elites in America, Hollywood, and shit like that. But there's so many other dynamics of them capitalizing off our pain. So I get he wanted to keep it narrow. Like, sure, we hire a couple of guys that rap about gang shit. Like, no, bro, it's way deeper than that. Sometimes there's even been conversations where y'all have helped push and engage these things. I'm not talking about just Jewish people, but label execs has helped push these beefs. Like, bro, it gets nasty.
Label leads, and they help these artists to push their albums. Along with all types of other artists.
Just in his train of thought, how he was explaining it, he would be like, well, how could one be ignored? And as soon as I wear these symbols that exploiting pain of other people, now this is a bigger issue. Well, why are we causing a problem here when I do it, as opposed to when pain of black people are.
So that means that there shouldn't be an uproar if I wear a necklace of a black man hanging from a tree. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, you're exploiting a symbol of violence, not just hate or disdain, actual lethal violence. If any person, black, white, or whatever, but especially non-black person, somehow wears a symbol, an iced out symbol of slavery, it would not go well on any level for that person.
But he's equating that to, say, these executives that happen to be, say, Jewish, if they're monetizing off, say, black on black violence, gangsterism, the denigration of black culture. He's like, well, yeah, that might not be lynching and really extreme levels of black turmoil, but it's still black turmoil that they're benefiting off of. So why can't I benefit off, or I don't know if he thinks he's benefiting, but why can't I exploit your pain?
Yeah, I don't think it's a benefit or exploit thing. I think it's a bring to light thing. I think it's I'm about to challenge you guys. I'm about to challenge you. I'm about to challenge our rhetoric. Like I said, I think it's more to do with a war than trying to exploit off of. And I think that's a difference, because not all wars are just, but if you look at a guy and you look at his narratives and the reasons for wanting to go to war, and you start to see, like, maybe he got some points, it's like, well, you can't really call him out for, I guess you want to say, propaganda against the other country. That's a part of war. I remember I was watching, I think it might have been a Vietnam throwback or something like that, war movie, and they had a Asian lady speaking, a Vietnamese lady speaking American, and she was just talking about how we got good chicken for you guys to come eat. Y'all shouldn't be fighting a white man war. Y'all shouldn't be on front lines. It's not gonna go good for y'all. Y'all can come here with us, and y'all can don't my voice sound good? Don't you just want to come home and just eat some good cornbread? Like they were saying all type of propaganda shit, because that's a part of war and trying to manipulate and change, whether it's the people on the actual battlefield mindset or the people on the outside and how they view the war mindset. So in a sense, I'm not really upset at war tactics. That's a part of war. But on the other side, his reasons for wanting to go to war is like he looks at y'all guys as being exploiting us, and not like been doing it for a long amount of time. Like, even when you talk about, bro, it goes back even deeper than slavery with some of the Jewish elites and some of the things that they had in hands in moving us and shit like that around. Like, bro, it gets really crazy. So, like I said, with one guy wanting to go to war with a culture of elites, it's like when y'all have been going unchecked for hundreds of years, essentially, bro. Like, it's, and at least the last 70, 80 years, if we just want to talk about modern American shit that's been going on with the blacks and Jewish elites. It's a weird conversation because, like I said, these people have been benefiting and actually exploiting us unchecked, unjust for so long. And one guy is doing pretty much the shit that y'all did to us in the same way. It's like, it's weird, and you want to crucify that guy, but it's like at some point somebody was gonna call y'all out on y'all shit. And it's just, I don't want to get that deep, but yeah, I don't think Kanye's that crazy, to be honest.
So
that's his argument. I'm not saying that.
So if Kanye dropped, if he wanted to support an artist who was Jewish, who talked about killing other Jewish people, like, banging on other Jewish people, whatever else, I don't think anyone would really have a problem with that.
So you nitpicking. Because at the end of the day, the principle, it's about the principle. It's not about who's doing it. It shouldn't be about the skin color of who's doing it. So if it's all between, because the culture, he's of the culture is Jewish, different. If that's how you slice down being able to exploit black people, it's like, well, it's because it's other black people committing the crimes against black people. It's not my problem. Even though I might be putting them in a place to do these different things and keep these different cultures going. And telling him, hey, man, that was a cool song, but where's the gang shit at? You don't want to put some of that on the album? I really think that should be the focus of the album. That's not exploiting and being destructive. Like, it's no different than wearing it. You might as well wear the chain with a guy being hung, because that's all you're doing to the community in the sense of those elite people and how they've been exploiting us, along with taking extra funds off top, charging us extra money, killing us with lawyer fees and all these other different things. Like what are we talking about? So, or taking our masters, like when people die, or even when they're alive and doing shit like that, where these people didn't know what type of deals they were getting in, like. And you were supposed to be their lawyer. And the lawyer and the executives came together, bro. Like, bro, it gets real shiesty. You might as well have been having a hangman chain. Honestly. Because just like he said, well, if it was another Jewish guy doing it, it wouldn't be a problem. Well, that in itself shows a little shadiness in y'all principles and how y'all believe. Because if we just looking at principles, it shouldn't be, no matter if it's anti-Semitic, it's anti-Semitic, whether it's a black guy doing it or a Jewish guy doing it. That's no different than us calling a guy a coon. Like, just because you black don't mean you can get away with having white people narratives. That ain't how it works. Like, if you're gonna be, you can be Clayton Bigsby essentially, and we're gonna call you a coon. We ain't gonna just dismiss it because, oh, it's just a black guy doing it. Nah, fuck that. So that's where it kind of gets weird from that rebuttal from Vlad. We'll go back a little bit.
That's his argument. I'm not saying that.
So if Kanye dropped, if he wanted to support an artist who was Jewish, who talked about killing other Jewish people, like, banging on other Jewish people, whatever else, I don't think anyone would really have a problem with that. I wouldn't give a shit, right? That's what he's talking about. In fact,
He wouldn't give a shit. So if a Jewish guy was wearing a swastika, would you not give a shit?
A lot of these,
it's so weird.
When you look at sort of the biggest gangster rap labels, there's usually a black person at the head of them. Suge Knight, QC, Coach K and P, gangster rappers all on that label, right?
And again, I feel like I'm playing devil's advocate.
And the parent label, that's just one of their properties out of dozens of artists, including a Taylor Swift and including all these other people and again, Ed Sheeran and whatever else.
I'm playing devil's advocate for the conversation here, but I think even when we even got to the Kendrick stuff, he's like,
he said he said QC and Suge Knight. Like, Suge Knight was a gangster, but not necessarily his artists was just automatic. I mean, they were gang bangers and shit. I guess they talked about the shit, but I'm more talking about the drill and shit like that, like the new era and how that shit's been exploited. But even then, like the parent companies was heavily involved in these subsidiary companies. Like, what are we talking about? Like, they not giving out. They not giving Birdman $300 million. They not giving Suge Knight all this money to pay these artists if they don't see something in it. Like, they were heavily invested. I'm sure they put probably more money and resources in the company, like a Suge Knight company and the Gang company, than another rap label that was more talking about positive things. Let's just be real. So you can already see follow the money, where the real interest lies. And over the years, keep following the money and how they kept pushing and trying to pick artists over the years that has been on that type of timing. Like, especially recently, bro. It's crazy the type of labels and things that these guys are like coming across when all they talking about is drilling and actually killing niggas. Like, and them niggas don't see that it's no problem.
He has this idea of like agents, or sometimes he says slaves, and he's like, hey, listen, Cardi is an agent because, yeah, Cardi might represent this, but then he's being handled by this guy Lucian. Or that's the thing, Kendrick might think, hey, I'm getting at Drake and blah, 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 but you're basically being puppeteered by the people who own UMG, and those people aren't you. This idea of not like us, the person who's really not like us is the person who owns your catalog and that you're really signed to. And that's how he's thinking.
You really...
And you see what Axe said, it had nothing to do with Hitler. It had nothing to do with Jewish Israelites. It had nothing to do with Palestine. It had all to do with music industry shit. Because if you really following Kanye, and obviously he's stepped out of the loop of being like, he definitely be pushing the ledge as far as some crazy shit that he's saying. No, don't get it twisted. But if you really following his tracks, like, he's really just trying to focus on the industry and Hollywood and America and the shit like that. Like, I don't think it has anything to do with all Jewish people by any means.
Think that someone other than Kendrick put together the song "Not Like Us"?
No, not the song. But
the whole beef. Do you think that one of the presidents or vice presidents at UMG was like, "Yo, Kendrick, you should do this and beef with Drake"?
No, I think he's missing the point. I think this goes back to what Vince Staples said. Like, Vince Staples wrapped it up perfectly when he went on a Joe Budden podcast, and I don't even think I could get close to saying what he said. But essentially, he's talking about how these beefs, and you know what? I can't. I wish I you know what? I could find it in my likes. But there was a video, and I'll try to wrap up what both him and Vince Staples said, because it's kind of similar shit, where the labels benefit off these beefs. The labels are getting a certain amount of money. So when you look at the people actually beefing, they're looked at as kind of like pawns. And it's cool when you look at it as entertainment, but when you talk about the structure and how things are set up, we set up to fail. We set up to be these crash outs, and essentially these labels are just churning up. That's literally what Vince Staples said mid-beef. So that's huge. And then the video I seen recently was talking about how with, I think, the Meek Mill and Drake situation, the labels wanted to get behind the back-to-back record. The Grammys wanted to give him awards for it, and he pretty much retired the record because he didn't want it be a beneficial thing. It was supposed to be a beef between two guys, and I mean, who wins and who loses, that's up to them, because them the two dudes that's going in the ring to pretty much for legacy. Like, this could affect your legacy greatly. Like, Meek Mill was kind of never looked the same after those situations, and Drake could have never looked the same. Like, he still was kind of looked at a certain way after the beef was over with. So these beefs are dangerous even if you do win. So to have people on the outside benefiting when They have no real vested interest besides just capitalism on a fight that's not their culture and all these other different things. It starts to look like Mandingo fighting, essentially. It's like, it looks great for the crowd, but when you really get behind it, it's two black people tearing each other down while labels trying to fuck up profitability-wise. And I think it was something similar to with Drake and the Pusha T situation where I don't think none of that was really monetized like it was supposed to be, like, or how it could have been. And it was kind of just left between them two. And then when you get to the Kendrick and Drake situation where the labels are completely behind this Mandingo fighting, essentially. And one guy's supposed to be the fucking... When you look at the Vince Staples point of view and breaking it down to like calling a Mandingo fight, one guy is supposed to be this righteous, I'm not a part of the Matrix, and you literally become a pawn for these industries to turn up, for the Grammys to make money off of you, for the Super Bowl to essentially make money off of this beef. And it's not even, I couldn't even, like, because beef is like keeping it very simple. This attack on black attack and how they're benefiting on that, and the numbers went up. Everybody know it. From shit, the Oscars ain't have shit to do with the motherfucking beef, but they like, it's Kendrick. It's halftime of the Oscars, so it's time for Kendrick to come out and diss Drake because they know they're gonna get views. And that's what this, like I said, black on black attack became. It became amusing. And let's be real, there was real niggas, like their careers are at stake. Like if Kendrick didn't play shit correctly, that domestic violence shit wasn't sweet. Like that's not something you like, especially talking about your image wise. Then when you talk about Drake and the pedo shit, like that shit's not sweet. Like at all. You're not of the culture, that shit's not sweet. So for people to be using it as they muse and they not even of the culture, that's kind of what Vince Staples was saying. And I think that's what Ak was trying to say for Kanye in a sense in this conversation. But let's go back a little bit. I got to wrap this up soon.
You really think that someone other than Kendrick put together the song Not Like Us?
No, not the song. But
the whole beef, do you think that one of the presidents or vice presidents at UMG was like, yo, Kendrick, you should do this and beef with Drake. You should, when you do this Future album, Future and Metro Boomin album, you should diss Drake because that's
not on an idea wise, but
Kendrick is Kendrick. Like Kendrick is really so unique in terms of his approach to music that
Vlad's completely missing the point.
Think anyone's
no, of course, but
I don't think anyone's in his ear over this.
And I do agree or believe
whether they're in his ear or not, it might be a short sight to Kendrick where they didn't even have to get into his ear. They played it like, hey, we're going to help push you, Kendrick. And Kendrick like, oh, cool. Let's see how that goes. Supposedly it was like a 1-year trial or some shit like that. Who knows the deal with him and UMG. But maybe it was 2 years. But essentially they was gonna show them that they can get him hot and keep him hot. That's the theory going on. Kendrick's like, cool. I don't know if the beef was involved in this conversation or anything. I'm not even trying to suggest that. But they like, all right, cool. We got another artist, top tier artist. We're going to pay him out $250, $300 million, maybe even something close to $5 million. Maybe, who knows? We're going to make $3-4 billion. We're going to make $3-4 billion. It reminds me of the Big Sean song on Detroit 2, where he was like, rap is the biggest genre in the world. It's bigger in some countries than their own country's music. And rappers get pennies on the dollar if we talk about streams and shit like that. And even that, the people who set up the streaming industry and who's really behind those walls, they get pennies on the dollar while these people make billions of dollars off of our names and off these artists' names. And just off the culture in general. Billions of the culture, and the culture including beef, the degeneracy, the motivational people, the people like the journalists, all of these things that help push hip hop forward and make hip hop the culture that it is to be so digestible on many different facets, from the Thugs to the Kendricks to the Travis Scotts to the Big Crits to the JIDs to the to all these different. You can go all the Future, all type of Yeet, all type of different ways. But the fact that all these people can coexist and still be under the genre of rap or hip hop, like all of the genre, like I said, everything that helps push hip hop forward, these people make billions of dollars off of it. And that's the point that Vlad's missing. They don't have to talk to us. They don't have to be in our ear. They already know if we get you to sign your name on a dotted line, we about to run it up. Even if we about to run it up, honestly. That's just the simple way to look at it. And that's what Kanye is talking about, where you're a puppet in these conversations when you're starting to let these people benefit off of your song, where you starting to let this shit become. And it's not just about this beef. So let's just leave. I don't want to get into that because it started to make it seem like we really just on Kendrick, and it ain't even about that.
Believe this. Do I believe that the top level record executive says, hey, listen, we have two of our UMG artists that are gonna start attacking each other, and no matter who wins, we're gonna get the majority of the profits. So we're gonna put resources behind this to fuel. We're gonna use bots. We're gonna push this to radio. We're gonna make this big because we really don't have to do much because people like seeing a fight. We're just gonna profit off of their destruction of each other. Oh yeah, I definitely think that. Now, is it on a race level? No, I think that's on a business level. Like,
well, it could be on a business level, but it doesn't make it. It's still in it when it becomes in a culture of benefiting on negative shit and almost trying to push the negative shit forward from just how we've looked at black entertainment over the years. All the good shows get canceled, and they love trying to keep putting up bullshit. Like, if you just look at the themes, bro, like they constantly tearing down the good people, and they'll let the degenerates run around for years, unchecked. And that's a part of a lot of this Hollywood culture that they have built. So when yes, if it was a business and it was just this one-off thing, and it's cool, but when we see that there's been 50, 60, 70 years of y'all doing the same thing over and over again, it becomes more than just a business practice. It becomes predatory.
Making the majority of the profits, or the artists make the majority of the profits?
Oh, no, definitely the record labels.
You think?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you mean to tell me,
if Drake gets his $400 million, that's his first contract, his last contract,
yeah.
$400 million, you think UMG's not at least projected to get at least $2 billion from the proceeds within that 3 or 4 years? You don't?
I don't think it's that much.
If he doesn't think it's that much, what do you think? It's $1 billion? So they profited $600 million off of Drake? You think that a guy that dropped 7 albums under UMG, I believe, for that $400 million. It was around 6 or 7 albums. I think that was the deal. You think they only made $600 million? They might have made that on one album in itself. Like, think about what we're saying. That $400 million wasn't just for 1 year. And we talking about, no, nigga, we talking about 7, 8 years. Not even, because 7 albums, that was almost a decade of Drake. From the singles, the features, the writing credits. Like, what are we talking about, bro? What are we talking about, bro? They might have made $1 billion each album. What are we talking about, bro? Now, I don't know if that gets, because I don't know how Spotify makes its money off streams. I don't know how Apple makes its money off streams, and then how that gets funneled to UMG, and then how that gets funneled down to Drake. Because I'm sure there's splits, right? So even if each album was split down the middle, they was all making $1 billion and some change. Spotify gets a third, Apple gets a third, UMG gets the rest, and like they making at least $300 million or more, like per album, and that was what they just paid them. So they got their money back first album damn near. And I'm just throwing out numbers. I don't know how that shit works, but I'm pretty sure UMG getting a big slice of the Drake. Because it's like, why would they even lease it out to Apple or Spotify if they wasn't going to get a good cut? Like, nigga, we won't even going to allow it to be on y'all platforms if y'all not paying us. What the fuck? That's how they do it to YouTube. Like, that's the reality. So that's what's kind of confusing with that situation. I know $1 billion does sound, $1 billion each album is crazy, but who knows, bro? Who honestly knows, bro? Like, when you talk about these, they say his music is worth from like the 70s to the 2000s, like all of that catalog alone. Like, that's insane, bro. That shit gotta be worth a lot of fucking money. I'm sure it ain't worth less than $1 billion. So imagine them having a end on that type of legacy that he was building in that 7 years, because he got to that much value of being competitive with those eras over the last 7 years, you could say. I mean, obviously the earlier shit before that too, but they got a good chunk of that value. The labels, I believe, own a percentage of Spotify. And so they even own a percentage of Spotify. So yeah, bro, they getting a lot of fucking money, bro. I don't know the splits, but it'll be an interesting conversation, bro. Maybe we could have it on the pod. What do we think an album like Kanye's, or album like Drake's, or album like 50 Cent's or Jay-Z best album really was worth to a label? Like, how much did they really get in returns, essentially? Like, not after they obviously got to bust it down and pay people, but how much did UMG get for that album? How much was that album really worth to them? Like, that's an interesting conversation, bro. Especially, I don't know if any of the albums went, like, did they get, what was the album that went 800 first week? Was UMG a part of that? Like, that's some bread, bro. That gotta be crazy bread.
Vlad,
I don't think the margins are that big. I don't think
Vlad,
the margin,
it has to be at least
2.5 times. I don't think so. I don't think the margin.
Vlad, you wouldn't do an interview if you gave somebody $50,000 to do an interview. You wouldn't do it just to get $60,000, would you? You would give that person $50,000 if you're going to make at least $100.
That depends who it is. Depends who it is. Like, certain people. Okay, it's like this, right? Think about it like this. Mm-hmm. It's just numbers at the end of the day, right? So if I pay someone $1,000 and I make $5,000 off of it, that sounds like a good deal, right? I invested $1,000 and I made $5,000 off the interview. If I give Boosie $50,000 and I make $10,000 off of it, the margin is way smaller, but it's still more money than the $5,000 doing the same exact job.
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I gotta go work soon. But yeah, I'm just thinking about like the Joe Rogan. I don't know what the deal was. 400, 500 million. Spotify got way more than they was projected to get way more than that. I don't know how that really worked out from taking him completely off of YouTube and going straight to Spotify. That might not have worked. But for music that we know is working, oh man, the re-up has to be crazy, bro. I just don't think it's not. Maybe $500,000 each project. I mean, $500 million each project, 500 million each project. I can see that. I don't know what would be their percentage of that, what they'll be getting, but let's say each album that Drake dropped in that 7 years was around 500 million, a little bit more, a little bit less. And that's some good money still. That's still you hitting $1 billion. You hitting $1 billion. What would be? I'm trying to do quick math. That's $3.5 billion. if it was worth 500, and then I don't know what the splits would be of that 3.5 billion. It's an interesting conversation, man. That's an interesting conversation. I'm not sure how much the albums are ultimately worth, but even if you bring it down to they were worth 400 million, that's still probably over 2 billion each. I mean, over the total of those 7 albums or however many it was, like, still great money when you only paid the dude 400. You think a Drake project is worth 40 million each? Man, is that's something you looked up, or we just assuming? Because I don't know. That would be 40 million. But I'm thinking. Maybe, cause I'm thinking of like I'm like, does net worth kind of get into that? How much does Drake make a year? I don't know. Then you get money off tours. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. It's a good conversation. I don't know I think it got to be over 100 million a project for a guy like Drake. I don't know about other artists. It's probably close to or less than 40 million for sure. But with like a guy like Drake, it got to be over 100. Cause I'm just, when a guy's doing all those numbers, like, think about it like this: we just seen Flacco make 47,000 for how many views or watch time? If we was to do that same ratio, and I got to go to work, if we had to do that same ratio towards Drake's total monthly views on just Spotify alone, how many millions that is? Because I think Flacco's was in the thousands of watch time, right? And he was getting 50,000 a month. 50,000 a month times 12 is already what, 600? No, I might be off. I don't want to do math like that. I ain't that good. But yeah, no, that's, I don't know. That's a crazy number. Cause I'm just thinking with Flacco, if you was to do that same number of 600 million new listener, how much actual minutes that equates to in listen time and ad revenue and all that different shit that they have on Spotify and shit like that, that gotta be worth a lot of fucking money. Just in 1 month, he would be like Mr. Beast. How much he make a month? Like, is he getting more watch time than Drake getting listening time? That's where my mind starts to go. But man, I'll wrap it up here. We'll probably finish this up on the pod because this is an interesting conversation, honestly. Like, because we don't know how to measure streams in music, but we do have clear metrics in YouTube's and kick deals and stuff like that. And then when you add the subscriptions and shit like that Spotify might give just because people want to listen to Drake, and like Drake might be they listen to Drake 50% more than any other artist and they got a subscription. How much does that kind of go to Drake as far as value? Like, it's an interesting conversation, bro, but I gotta go to work, man. It's been fun.